Curtis A reached out to me, said make a theme song for my show. Said alright, just give me all the details, man. And my homie says he don't know. Well, if you're gonna pay me big bucks, cause I might should have something to say. He said, you know what I bring, I'm the customizing king, nothing else matters anyway. So is he gonna have guests? I don't know. Is he gonna go live? I don't know. What time will it be? What will you see? I'm pretty much in the dark, but I can guarantee he'll be customizing action figures, getting paint all on his fingers. It's art by Akerman. It's art by Akerman. Tips and tricks and conversation, sharing his gift with every nation. It's art by Akerman. Art by Akerman. You best get ready, cause now it's time for Art by Akerman.
All right, good morning, folks. Today we're going to do a little quick tutorial on painting the dots on a Mythic Legion figure. So when we're talking about the dots, we're talking about like these little rivets and whatnot on here. For those of you that aren't aware, there are things within the Mythic Legion line that are called Legion Builders. And Legion Builders typically have less paint apps that allow you to, add some extra paint yourself to customize it and get it at a cheaper price point. So your standard Mythic Legion figures will have more paint apps and cost just a little bit more money, but the Legion Builders are a little cheaper and allows you to kind of make some of those changes. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take this as the Shadow Orc Grunt Legion Builder figure, and we're just going to paint the dots. We're going to paint the rivets. So let me get this out of the package and we'll be right back. So here we go. We have the figure out of the package. So once again, this is the Shadow Orc Grunt, and we're going to paint some of these little rivets and stuff on here. So in addition to the figure itself, got a few weapons. So there is this sword here. You have got an axe, little hand axe, and we have this mace, a set of pauldrons, and in addition to this head here, we also have a second head available for that, and then a belt. So that is everything that this figure comes with. For this particular one that we're painting, I'm going to choose the mace here to paint because the mace also has some rivets and stuff on it. May just do a little dry brushing on the wood part of this just to make it stand out and look a little bit more natural. And then these weapons we're not going to use, and on the pauldrons we'll paint the rivets on there too. So that is everything we're going to paint. Open up my wet palette. You can see I still have some of the snow effects and stuff from my last video that I did. And today we're going to do the rivet things. So got two paints here. This one is a So Flat Black. This is from Golden So Flat. Probably the best black out there in my opinion. I really love this. And then for brown, So Flat has some browns too, but I don't like them as much as this one. This Mournfang Brown from Citadel, I like a lot more. Both of these I've put into dropper bottles. So if you go to Monument Hobby, they sell the Pro Acryl dropper bottles with a couple different tops. It's got a twist top, a flip top, or these dropper tops. And I like these dropper ones. So I'll just buy like a dozen of those and then flip them into these bottles for any paints that I use on a more regular basis. And this is what those look like. So when you order these, I believe it comes in a dozen, and you get the little balls to go inside of there to shake it up, the bottle itself, and then whatever your choice of top is for it, whether it's the screw top, flip top, or like I picked the dropper top. All right, so we're gonna put some of this paint on here. I'm gonna start off with some of the black. Shake it up a bit. Get some black on there. And then do the same thing with the Mournfang Brown. I do have a electric shaker for paints that may be a little bit more difficult. These aren't too bad. So, all right. So kind of my game plan on here, anything that has this like metallic blue armor, the rivets on those, I'm just going to paint with a dark brown. And any of the rivets, like on this brown loin piece, I'm going to paint black. But the brown that I want to use is not quite dark enough yet. So I'm going to add some black in with this to make it the color that I want. All right, so now I'm just going to kind of check this, make sure it's the right consistency, making sure it's the right color that I want. So do a little test on my thumb, and that looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So that's about where I want it. So now I'm just going to take this and start filling in these little dots, these little rivets. And I'm just gonna just hit those up like this. So just everywhere I see a rivet on this metallic blue, I'm hitting it with this dark brown. And you can start to see like how that's making those details pop a little bit more. You know, once again, if you bought a regular Mythic Legion figure, standard figure, a lot of this stuff would already be painted in. But on a Legion builder, they don't do as much in terms of the paint apps. And then I will be back in just a minute once I've filled out those brown dots. You can see here how I've hit those rivets on the metallic parts and turned them brown. This is the first pass. I'm going to go through and do that again and just make sure that I've completely got that rivet and make sure I didn't miss any. But also on this step, if you have any spots where you hit areas you weren't supposed to, so I don't know if you can see like right here, I had gotten a little bit on this skirt piece that it was not supposed to be on. So that's where your little precision, cotton swabs will come in handy. There's some small ones. Here's a little bit bigger one. And I'll just get some water on there. And as long as you catch this while this is still relatively new, you should be able to just wipe that right off. If it dries a little bit more before you get to it, you could always use a alcohol swab, which is why I have these readily available. They're for like medical purposes, like usually you find them in a first aid kit and stuff. But that'll help if this is dried on too much and you can't just get it off with water. So, but you can see there, I've, just kind of get that off with the cotton swab. Same thing with any other areas. If I saw any areas where I went over and hit another spot that wasn't supposed to have it, I could just take one of these, or I could get one of the smaller ones if it was in a tighter spot, and I could, kind of clean up any of that extra that wasn't supposed to be on there. So what I'm going to do now is just take another pass, make sure I didn't miss any rivets, make sure that each one that I did was fully covered, and then we'll start working on that loin piece. Okay, you can see where I've taken the second pass on this. I've hit those rivets again, cleaned up any areas that needed to be cleaned up. And we've got, some accent colors on there now. And I'm now gonna work on this loin piece. So I'm gonna just pop that off of there. And on here, I'm just gonna be using the black. And we're just gonna do the same thing. We're gonna hit up these rivets with that black color. So just basically hitting each one of those rivets up. And this is the first pass, so we will go through this a second time. While that is drying, I'm going to start working on this mace. And a couple things I want to do on there. I want to hit up these rivets on here. I'm going to turn those black. And then I want to paint this and kind of have this look more like wood rather than this like copperish color. So I'm gonna start with this part, and I'm just gonna take the same color that we were doing on the rivets on the metal, and I'm just gonna paint this thing. So, and I'm not worried about, you know, like what the highlights and stuff or the depth or anything like that's going to be. We're going to do that afterwards. I'll throw a little dry brush on here. But for right now, we're just trying to get full coverage. So just painting that all the way through. Once again, because, you know, we didn't prime this or anything, you may have some like issues with the paint being a little watery and not wanting to adhere right away. But once you get that first pass done and it dries, you should be good once you get to the second pass. So just kind of move it around a little bit. Now you could always take this down and prime it if you wanted to, and make it a little bit easier. I'm just trying to make this, you know, kind of a quick tutorial on this. So I didn't take the time to prime anything or any of that jazz. So once you've got it pretty much full coverage, you'll just let that dry, and then we'll come back and put a second coat on there, and then we're going to dry brush a lighter brown on there to make it look like wood, and we should be good to go. Okay, that loin piece is dried now, so I'm going to go back and hit those rivets up again a second time. Basically, I'm just going back through there and making sure those are completely covered. If I had any areas where I went outside, once again, I could use those cotton swabs to clean that up a bit. I just went over a little bit on there, so you'll see that's an area that I'll have to clean up. For the most part, the details on here are just gonna catch the paint, and you won't have too many issues. But you know, if you do end up going over in an area that you're not supposed to, that's okay. You know, you can just clean it up and we'll be good. So here's this one. I'm gonna let it dry. I'm gonna clean up this area here. We'll start on this mace topper, kind of work on some of the rivets here. So just like on the armor, just hitting up all those rivets, making sure I got everything. On the second pass, I'll try to get the sides, because the sides will look a little bit odd when you got black on the top part, but then the sides are still kind of copperish. But we'll get that on the second pass. Okay, so there's the main rivets on the mace. Okay, and then we'll set that aside to dry, and then we'll give our second pass at it. That's working. We'll go ahead and work on these pauldrons. I haven't touched these yet, so we'll start to put the brown on those. These are a little bit smaller, so it doesn't take as much. Okay, so that's one pauldron down. And then I'll work on the other one, let that dry. At this point, I'm waiting for some stuff to dry. I noticed I got some paint on my fingers, and I don't want any of that kind of rubbing off on any of the stuff as I'm working. So I'm just gonna use one of these alcohol swabs and just kind of clean up my hands. So these work pretty well for that. It's pretty good. My thumbnail I don't worry about, because that's basically like a paint palette for me. So I'll leave that till we're done. So, but otherwise, okay. All right, and then we'll go ahead and get back to the figure itself. Let me just make sure, take a look at it. It looks like those rivets look pretty good. No more to do there. The loin piece, we had that one spot down here that we needed to take a look at. So get that little precision cotton swab, get a little bit of that black paint off of there. Okay, so there you go, got that black paint off of there. So that looks pretty good now. Let's take a look at the mace handle. So there's kind of our base. You can see some areas where there's still some copper coming through. We're going to go ahead and do our second coat on that. Okay, that looks pretty good. We're just gonna let that dry, and then we'll put a dry brush on there, try to bring out that wood a little bit. May do a wash, we'll see. Trying to keep this one pretty basic. All right, then we'll get back to those pauldrons, make sure that they look good. Going back to this brown, and all right, while that dries, we'll switch over to the mace topper. Now, in order to get things to dry faster, you can use a hair dryer or a heat gun. A lot of times I'll use a heat gun, but if you can just let it air dry while you work on another piece, that's a way to go too. That way you can just kind of keep moving. So with this, we're just going to go back to this mace topper, and now we're going to look at kind of each of those rivets and try to get them a little bit more on the sides and everything else, just to completely fill in those rivets. So on that one, I had too much water in there, and you can kind of see where it went all over that area. And so I'm going to need to clean that up. So what I'll do first is just kind of dab a little tissue there, just soak up that water. And then I will get one of these with the sticks on it and clean that area up a little bit. Okay, that area is cleaned up, and then I'll just go back to it. I just got to make sure that there's not too much water in my brush this time. Hence the thumb palette. Okay. All right, like that. So I'm going to finish doing this one off camera, and then I will be right back. Okay, at this point, I am ready to do some dry brushing on this mace handle. So I'm going to go back to that Mornfang brown. We're just going to apply some of this to our wet palette without the black. And get my dry brush out. This is a elf brush, makeup brush. I've got a few different types of dry brushing brushes, but these elf ones work pretty good, especially for small areas. So wiped off some of that. Let me get my dry brush palette out here. Get some of that off on there. Okay. Test it on the back of my hand. Looks pretty good. And now I will just apply it here. So I'm just going to go back and forth. And I'm trying to get the raised areas of this handle, but not the deep spots, because those are going to already have that darker brown that we painted it with. So it creates instant shadow and highlights at the same time. Once again, you could add a wash to this if you wanted to really bring out those shadows a little bit more. But I think this is fine for what we're doing. Okay. And we're going to take that mace topper that we finished and put it on there. So that's the new weapon. Okay. We're going to take our figure. We're going to put his loin piece back on. Okay, so now I've got the figure with his loin piece back on there. I'm going to throw the pauldrons on there, give him the weapon, and we'll call it a day. So, okay, so here he is back together. You could see where those just different accent colors pieces makes it stand out a little bit more from the regular Legion builder. I am going to do two more things real quick. I'm going to paint in this strap part of this belt, and then some of this chainmail, as well as a little bit of the detail lines right here. So detail lines there, strap, chainmail. Those are pretty quick fixes that would also add a little bit to this. So starting out with this part here, I'm just going to paint those detail lines in black. So do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see here where, you know, just painting in those lines on the neck piece, and then that belt adds just a little bit more pop to this. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're just going to add a little silver or metallic look to this chainmail. So for that, I'm going to we'll use this one here, Iron Breaker, and we're just going to color in some of that chainmail there. So do that and then I'll be right back. Okay, and here's the finished look on this. There's obviously more details in here that we could paint if we wanted to, but we hit the dots on the loin piece, we hit the dots on the armor, we did the wood on the mace handle, as well as the rivets on the mace head, did the belt, like made that black, put these black lines on the collar piece, and then just added a little bit of silver to the chainmail. So just those few little details, you can see kind of the difference that makes in that Legion builder, and you've, you know, created a different look for this guy. So he just, you know, just a little bit more detailed. So if you're looking to get started on customizing, this is a good place to start. Just grab a Legion builder, paint some of the details that are there, and be on your way. So hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel for more customizing. And until next time, keep creating. Thanks. See y'all.